everyone. It is me, your absolute favorite OM System Live person. I know it, Michaela. I am here tonight because we are going to go live again. It's time. And I am looking in the comment section. Really excited to see all of you guys out here from all over the world. We have some of our OM System ambassadors in the chat already. I see the Kacharas are in the chat. I think I saw Peter Baumgarten possibly too. And a couple of people who know David, who's one of our guests that we're going to have tonight, and some friends of Emilie's. So I look forward to a lively and exciting chat down there tonight, guys. I know you guys are always good at supporting each other, answering questions, helping me understand what the Celsius is. And speaking of the weather, quickly, it is fall in Northern California where I am, and it is the one time of year that it is absolutely perfect weather. But it's also perfect weather to wander in the forest right around this time. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about going into the forest. And we have two awesome photographers who are going to share their work with us and a little bit of tips and potentially different things that they like to see when they're out exploring in nature. I'm going to go over some do's and don'ts. The do's are please ask questions. Please be helpful and friendly in the chat section. We love seeing that. Yes, of course, as always, this is being recorded and you can check it out later. If you can't finish watching it tonight, don't worry about it. You can always watch it on our YouTube channel. And awesome news, next week, OM System Day is coming. If you remember last year, OM System Day on October 27th, we announced the new brand, OM System, and we are going to be celebrating that really soon with a day of live streams with a lot more of our staff, not just me, so you can listen to somebody else talk once in a while. And it's just going to be a really cool day, and we hope that you will save the date and come check out our live streams on October 27th. I threw the link in the chat in case you guys want to bookmark it, save the date. But for now, I think we should introduce one of our guests. So let's see if David's ready. You ready, David?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So tonight, our first guest is an OM System photographer from
Seattle area. Yeah.
No, it's okay. So you're from the Pacific Northwest, and you have no shortage whatsoever of forests up there.
Yes, that is very true. There's more forests than there are people. And I think I did the math once with the stated acreage, and every single resident of the state of Washington could have 2.2 million acres of forest if it was all divvied up.
Wow, that is so much forest.
It's a lot. I'm sorry, my cat is on the desk and you can see its tail.
We love furry friends who decide to join the live stream. As you guys all know, this is a live show and crazy things happen, and apparently cattails happen. So, so David, tell me a little bit about you. I actually know a little bit about you because I'm also from the Pacific Northwest, so I've met you in person. And you used to shoot for a different brand, right? And now you're in OM System?
Yeah, I used to shoot Canon cameras, and I had a couple different flagship cameras from Canon. And it was just over a year ago that I switched to OM System. And the story behind that was that my dad was actually going to Costa Rica, and so we were looking for a small camera that he could take with him for affordable lenses. And I saw in the camera shop a used old school EM1 Mark 1, the first EM1, and picked it up and started shooting with it, thinking it'd just be a fun street photography camera, and just instantly fell in love with it and was blown away by the image quality, even of an older body. And then slowly started replacing all of my Canon equipment with Olympus and Ohm equipment, and now that's 100% what I shoot with.
Oh, I love that. I remember when you came in, we were in Seattle in Kenmore Camera, and I remember you had the EM1X at the time, or you were purchasing the EM1X at the time. I remember that. It was very awesome, because that's when I heard your story. So what got you into, wilderness photography? Where's that passion come from?
Yeah, that's a good question. I grew up in Oregon, and I grew up next to thousands of acres of untouched woods. And so as a kid, I'd just go spend most of the weekends and afternoons in the forest. And I think that kind of just persisted through adulthood. And now I just feel kind of the happiest when out in the woods and like romping around taking photos.
I like that. Well, let's look at some of your photos. Do you want to share some? Let's see what you've
Oh,
got
definitely.
lined up for us tonight. Oh, wait, sorry. First, we need to know what's in your bag. I know this. This is my show. Sorry, David. What's in your bag?
Yeah, so currently in my bag, I have the EM1 Mark III, and then I have the OM1. I also have the 100 to 400 f5 to 6.3 telephoto lens. I've started using almost primarily the 12 to 100 f4 Pro lens. I also have for wide angle, I have the 7 to 14 f2.8 Pro, which I absolutely love. And then recently picked up the Fisheye 8mm 1.8, which is a phenomenal lens. And then I always carry the little OMSYSTEM 20mm 1.4 Pro for when it starts to get a little darker out and I want to have shallower depth of field.
I was lurking your Instagram the other day after you got the 8mm fisheye. Those photos in your stories were really cool.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with that.
You could tell it was like day one because you had so many awesome photos. You're like dedicated to that lens.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah, and I really like, I traded in my EM1X for the OM1 when it came out, and I really loved the EM1X, but I was kind of going for more of that form factor again with the smaller size. And I love that I can carry these two phenomenal camera bodies and all of these lenses in just like a shoulder bag when I'm out hiking, and I can keep it really light. Or if I want to do a camping trip, I can save a lot of room for food and bear safe and tent and things like that. And so this just makes it really accessible and really easy to take things with me and to switch out really easily out on the trail.
Nice. I was just joking with somebody the other day about how my camera bag is so small and petite, but that most of my bag is just filled with snacks and food.
Yes.
Like you just said, that's what is it. And then I've got, my camera and all my lenses take up the smallest amount of my pack, and everything else is the snacks because I love to eat.
And that's how it should be. I mean, really, yeah.
That's what we go hiking for, right? Is the snacks.
Yeah, it's the snacks.
Not the photos. All right. Now I promise we're going to look at some of David's photos. I jumped the gun on that one. Sorry, guys. All right. So this is your backyard, right? Like this is right where you live.
Yeah, so this is all within probably about 45 minutes to an hour of where I live. And well, maybe the bottom left and the bottom right are a bit further away at Mount Rainier National Park, which is about an hour and a half away. What I really love about focusing on photos of the actual trails is that they're really immersive. And I find that even when I'm doing a hike to a great vista that overlooks some of the mountain ranges, I still keep finding myself drawn to the photos I took while on the actual process of hiking. And I think I really, really love being under the trees and just immersed in that green environment. And so I constantly find myself drawn to trying to take pictures that can help me recall that a little more clearly when I'm looking at them and editing them. So for these photos, I kind of just put a different selection. They're all trail photos with different features and different kind of points of interest. I tend to shoot for trail photos. I oftentimes just shoot from eye level. I'll usually start there, and then I'll start moving the camera around a little bit more from waist level, from ground level, and then I'll hold it over my head just to see what's going on there. And then I'll start introducing other things to the side. But I like these photos a lot because it looks like you're about to take that first step onto the trail. And that's what I was really trying to capture going through that. Also, oftentimes tend to gravitate towards really symmetrical photos where the path goes straight out in front. But a couple of those photos on the bottom, the path is starting from the side and kind of veering towards the side a little bit too. And I think the point of that is to make it seem as if you're anticipating going onto it instead of actually being there present on the path.
Yeah, I love this. It's like the opening of a book, like you're about to embark on the journey. I love the storytelling in this. It's very cool.
Thank you.
I'm a particular fan of the foggy one up on the top left. That one.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like we're going on a spooky adventure and I'm ready for it.
That ended up being pure happenstance. We were going to a bird sanctuary to do some bird photography. And on the weekend that we went, and on that morning, it was just super packed. And so this was a state park about 20 minutes down the road. And we went there and it borders Puget Sound, and the fog had just rolled in, and it just ended up being this haunting place. And there's bodies of water with reflections, everything's glassy smooth. And then the trees just were kind of sunken into the fog and created this really eerie sort of texture in the photo.
Yeah, it's amazing. Somebody actually has a question about your fog. What are
Oh,
your
yeah.
tricks for photographing the fog? Do you have any special tricks that help you get the shot?
Yeah, I think photographing in the fog can be probably the trickiest part is if it starts to cling to the front element of your lens.
Right.
So I think having multiple lens cloths is really important when there's any kind of moisture in the air. Sometimes that can lend to the eeriness of the photo if the front element is just a little fogged over with moisture, but it becomes overwhelming really quickly. The other part is just thinking about exposure and thinking about shapes that are in the fog, because fog can present some really fascinating negative space to work with. And it can also present kind of a hint of what's actually there versus what's not there. And so I think just kind of trusting your gut and thinking about what you're drawn to and going with that, and then starting to ask questions why you're drawn to it's really cool.
Awesome. All right, so we've started the path. Let's go further down the path. What else do we have?
Yeah, so I
Ooh,
wanted to talk a little bit about the weather sealing on the Home System cameras. I think there are lots and lots and lots and lots of photos of sunny weather, beautiful hikes. And to me, I think the best time of year to go hiking is in the winter. For one, all of the lowland elevation hikes are the most accessible, but also during inclement weather, they're almost completely empty, which I really like. And that kind of transports you back to one of the reasons a lot of people go hiking is to be alone in the woods. But also when moisture is introduced to the landscape, the colors become more saturated and a lot richer. And there's also movement that happens with rain or any particles from trees blowing down. So it kind of introduces this drama to the photos that is really difficult to duplicate in sunny weather or warm weather. The weather sealing on the OM cameras has been phenomenal. I really love going out and getting completely drenched in the rain. And I want my cameras to be able to do that with me. I don't want to be held back from them because I don't want any excuse to not go out. And I have taken, that's a picture of the EM1X when I still had it, but that and the EM1 Mark III, and it hasn't been rainy enough yet for me to take out the OM1, but the cameras have just held up beautifully to being just in downpours. And again, carrying multiple lens cloths is really important because they get soaked super, super quickly. But yeah, so I just wanted a little selection of photos that kind of show the inclement weather that you can go into and the opportunity to capture drama in the landscapes, even when they're a tight, close landscape like the underbrush or a trail.
you're spoken like a true Pacific Northwesterner right there.
Yeah.
Not me. I was born and raised there. And you know what? The one thing I want to never do again is be in the rain. But I think that it is so true and very Pacific Northwest of you to enjoy the trails out in the rain. My sister is the same way. She loves it. And I just think it's really neat because you are going to get, solitude and images that most people aren't going to go get because they're not taking their camera out to get soaking wet. So, and that is the one place, and there's a Canadian in here who says you're also speaking their language, that weather sealing really comes in handy is the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
I've
And on
definitely
that,
photographed many of my children's sporting events in the
yes.
pouring rain with my Olympus and OM system cameras when we lived up there.
And on that note, also in inclement weather, I find that the sensor vibration for the automatic sensor cleaning has been phenomenal. I've had to take in my old Canon cameras many times to get their sensors cleaned, and I've never once had to do that with any of my Olympus or Ohm gear, which has been phenomenal. It's like a magic little function that happens, and then your sensor's clean, which gives a lot more confidence in being willing to change the lens in maybe places that are a little less desirable to try that.
Right. It's funny because like two or three people ask that about dust and changing your lenses and everything. And yes, if you're unaware and you're an OM system or Olympus user, all of our cameras have the supersonic wave filter that David was just talking about, which is a self-cleaning mechanism. Every time you turn your camera back on, your sensor rotates at 30,000 rotations per second, obliterating dust off your sensor. It is self-cleaning. So you don't have to worry too much about that dust. And of course, they're weather sealed. So, all right, that was my spiel. I've got that memorized. Can you tell?
It was a good spiel. Yeah.
Supersonic wave filter. All right. Ooh. Ooh, I
Yeah.
like
So, I
these. I
mean,
like the moodiness of these. This is great. Are these
oh,
also kind of winter fall
these
images?
are all, yeah, the muskrat to the top there was late spring, but everything else was winter. I think this kind of speaks to the portability of the OM system quite well, because these were all shot with telephoto lenses, and I think the kitty corner bird and the squirrel were both shot with the 40 to 150 at 150, and then the elk and the muskrat were both shot with the 300 4 Pro, I believe. And just being able to carry those lenses along with everything out and switch them out super quickly means that when you are presented with a cool moment or encounter with wildlife, you have the confidence to be able to catch it. Because I think it can be really daunting when going on an all-day hike to think what kind of gear you want to take with you. And if you're limited on size and capacity of the bag, that becomes a lot of guesswork. Will I see something neat that I'm not able to capture? Will I not? And this just makes it a lot easier because that 100 to 400, I love taking that because that gives me a full range. Recently on a hike, I was out and I was able to capture some beautiful photos of otters just because I had that lens with me and I wasn't anticipating seeing a lot of wildlife that day. And so just being able to pack that and carry it with you without adding pounds and pounds to your kit, which drag you down on the hike, is super important. And then you can get some cool encounters that you want to treasure and remember.
Nice. Somebody wants to know what white balance settings you use. I would assume some of this is in editing, but also very gorgeous, and maybe your white balance has something to do with that.
Oh, thank you. I'm shooting, I mean, I shoot everything in RAW, so white balance setting on the camera is not really that important because it can be changed super easily in post. So I just let the camera do auto white balance. For overcast days, that usually stays pretty cool, and then I'll usually add some warmth in post to bring it up to around 5500, I think, for photos like this. I like a little bit more warmth, but there'll be some snowy photos ahead, and we can talk about difficulty with white balance there as well. But on days like this, when it's rainy and everything is so saturated and rich, it's really easy to just kind of bring that up a little bit and indulge in some of the richer colors.
All right, let's check out some. Ooh,
Yeah,
waterfalls.
waterfalls. This is one of my absolute favorite features of the OM system cameras, and I think if anyone hasn't explored using this yet, do it because it's deceptively easy and the image quality you get is phenomenal. The live ND filter function on all the cameras is just mind blowing what you can produce. I for one hate carrying tripods and I don't like carrying filters and I like keeping a light kit. And so with this paired with the nice IBIS in the cameras, I can handhold for easily 2 seconds and get enough movement in the water to create that nice silky effect. And I think the longest I've handheld was 3.5 seconds leaning against a tree, which is way more than enough to get a beautiful long exposure on the water. And just being able to hit a button, it's programmed on the record button on the top of my cameras. I just hit it, it instantly goes to a simulated 32 ND filter. And then I get the shot I want, and it's phenomenal. It makes it so easy also. If just you are on maybe a crowded trail and you only have a couple seconds to grab a shot of, well, you're on a bridge while other people are coming, you can get it just really quickly. And if you want to pair it with a tripod, you can get absurd long exposures really simply for less amount of time, which means that you have more opportunity to retake the photo and reposition and not miss a shot due to waning daylight.
That's awesome. I'm a huge fan of the Live ND and programming it to a button. If you haven't programmed your Live ND to a button and you live anywhere near waterfalls, you should definitely do that today as soon as this episode ends, uh, and lean against a tree to brace yourself. I'm a huge fan of stumps as tripods.
Yeah, and on these photos, there's a range of very wide lens. I think that top one of Comet Falls, the more epic one, was the 7 to 14. But then the one next to it, I think, was shot at 35 millimeters or 40 millimeters, which is 70 or 80 millimeter in full frame equivalent. And so just being able to handhold also with a telephoto range is just kind of crazy because you could have the 40 to 150 and zoom it out to 150 and still get a detail shot of the water cascading over moss or rocks, and then pull back and get a full image of the waterfall. And just that versatility is unmatched.
Absolutely true. I love hearing that from you guys. All right. Oh, we're back to the fog. I like this one.
Yeah, so this slide, I just like thinking about negative space in the forest as well. It's nice to get to a point where you can kind of pull back and see the forest for the trees. And I think going back to the idea of hiking through bad weather, it changes so rapidly. And this was shot at Mount Rainier, where it would be sunny, it would be cloudy, it would be foggy, it would be rainy, all within the course of 45 minutes. And being prepared for that and not having to worry about camera exposure to the elements means that you can find really beautiful shots that only linger for a few moments. I like this shot a lot because it suggests the deepness and the richness of the forest by only conveying a few of the trees up front as they kind of fade into the back, into the fog there. For editing the shot, I kind of desaturated the blacks a little bit to make it look just a little flatter, especially towards the base of the trees. I thought that kind of lended a nice element to the overall aesthetic of that kind of washed out and soft look of the trees fading off into the distance there. Also speaking to symmetry, I really love symmetry, so it tickled me that all the trees are just perfectly straight up and just going back to different heights. And that creates just kind of a fun opportunity for the eye to go from one corner of the frame to the other and back again, because you're constantly charting out the different pattern of peaks and dips.
Nice. I like it. It reminds me of like a holiday village. It's perfect.
Yes.
Quite perfect.
And
we're
then
back on the path.
Back on the path, I just want to use this photo to talk about exposing when on a sunny setting under the underbrush. I think it can be really easy to expose exclusively for the shadows, and I don't really like doing that so much because I find that just there'll be moments of super overexposed bark that I'm not a big fan of. So I'll usually expose maybe just a stop to the right, and that gives me plenty of room to bring down the highlights and to bring up the shadows without introducing any noise. And then you get that nice rich contrast that is a look that can't possibly be duplicated on a phone or anything like that. It has this kind of beautiful texture to it, lent through the light and shadow.
Awesome. All right, where are we going next? Ooh, to the
and then
snow.
Lastly, to the snow, I just wanted to talk a little bit about ISO in Micro Four Thirds systems. I think there's this misconception that Micro Four Thirds has horrible noise performance, and I don't find that to be true. I can shoot comfortably up to probably around 10,000 ISO and easily around 6400 and get photos that I really like. But compare that also just with the excellent image stabilization you can handhold for a second and keep the ISO really low too, if you're doing landscapes. So I think the whole idea of worrying about ISO performance, especially in a landscape geared genre, is nonsense, because you can use the image stabilization and hold for quite a while and get the shot you want. And then if you are doing more movement-oriented photography like wildlife or sports, I think being able to crank that up and get the photo, as long as you expose the photo correctly and don't underexpose it thinking that you're saving yourself on the ISO, then you're fine. The noise grain pattern is really pleasant to look at, and just exposing that image correctly is what makes it usable in the end.
Nice.
Then again, just speaking quickly to snow, I really struggle to find compositions I like while hiking through the snow, which is frustrating because I love hiking through the snow, but I want to have the purpose of photography helping drive me out into the cold. And I found over and over again that just kind of trusting your instincts and what catches your eye is the best way to get a photo you like. And kind of not necessarily thinking so much about rules of composition, but thinking about what you're attracted to, and then feeling comfortable taking many photos around that subject, because there's the only limit is your memory card, which is thousands of photos that you can use. White balance can be a little tricky, especially as daylight begins to plummet. You can start with a warmer tone snow, but very quickly end up with something much cooler. So just paying attention to that, that's when you might want to actually set the white balance on your camera just to make editing consistently a little bit easier in post, and then you have a bit more control over what you're going to see when you bring it into Lightroom.
All right. Ooh, fisheye.
Yeah, and then jumping into fisheye. I know I put a lot of photos up here, so maybe I put too many in the whole presentation, but I did just jump into this fisheye lens, which I've been wanting to get for a really long time, and we took it out on a hike recently, and I loved the results that I could get from it. I think oftentimes you can get to a part in a hike where there's so much underbrush, it's just messy, no matter what focal length you use, and you start to lose track of your subject matter. The fisheye lens, through its natural distortion, creates this really cool kind of frame around the trail and just naturally frames it so your eye still knows where to go. And that's why super messy compositions are hard to look at, because you don't know where to take your eye. There's no leadership in the image. The fisheye compensates for that and kind of shows you where to go. And it also creates this compelling effect, and that distortion plays nicely with the shadows, and it plays nicely with the light coming through. I was also really, really happy with the sun stars I could get from this. And because it's so wide, I only had to stop down to f10 or f11 to get those beautiful shapes of the sun breaking through the trees. So that just was pretty cool to be able to play with.
That's awesome. Have you tried with the fisheye compensation yet, or are you still just enjoying the full fish?
I'm enjoying the full fish. That's one of the reasons I was really excited about the lens. With the fisheye compensation, it becomes a 4.5 millimeter wide angle lens, which is 9 millimeter in full frame equivalent. And that is remarkably wide, and it is distortion free, and it is sharp, sharp, sharp from corner to corner. And it's weather sealed, and it has the image clarity of all the pro lines. So it is the best wide angle lens you could get, because it's two lenses in one, and it gives you a lot of versatility to capture a range of shots.
I'll look forward to seeing your updated Instagram
Yes.
portfolio with the fisheye compensation as well. I want to see your side by sides.
Side by side. That's a good idea. Yeah.
All right.
And then I think it's easy to overlook the idea of panoramas when you're just in the forest versus out on a grand vista. And I like the idea of being able to stitch together 5 images like this one, because it shows the whole kind of narration of where the trail's coming and where it's going. And I think that's kind of a neat process. And being able to open up the floorscape and the underbrush of the forest can be a really nice way to draw the viewer into the atmosphere that a single frame or even just a wide angle lens can't necessarily do. And the benefit to a panorama versus an ultra wide is that the proportion and the compression in the image is a little more realistic. So you don't risk any kind of trial or error in tilting the camera the correct way to get everything distortion free. And the compression brings the background to the front just a little bit better. So it kind of has a look that you can't duplicate outside of stitching the images together. And then the next one is another panorama. That is kind of the grand vista. But again, I think I just wanted to show the dual purpose of it, of going for something more traditional and then bringing it down to a spot that you might not think is appropriate for those multiple images.
Yeah, that's gorgeous. That's a beautiful view. All right.
And then,
we made it to the black and white.
Yeah.
I know what this means.
This is the last slide of the presentation. Recently, this last year, I started really getting into using the monochrome feature on the EM1.3 and the OM1. And this doesn't produce a monochrome image, but it allows you to see monochrome through the EVF and through the LCD screen on the back. And I think this is a really fun challenge, especially one of the best things about hiking local is that you get to know your parks and your trails really, really well. But at the same time, with thinking about that, it can become a little underwhelming if you're too accustomed to something. So switching up the way in which you're shooting, what you're thinking about your compositions through introducing something like black and white can be a really, really fun challenge. So for these photos, all of them I shot with the 17mm Pro, and I use that exclusively on these hikes. And actually, no, sorry, the bottom left one I did not shoot with the 17mm Pro. The other 4 I did use that one exclusively on those hikes. And what I liked about that was the fixed focal length really kind of put some constraints on top of the black and white. But ultimately, you start looking at the forest a lot differently, because no longer are you reliant on colors and color gradation to lead the eye from one end of the frame to the other. You're reliant on texture and light tonality. And so going from dark to light and being able to play with the contrast a lot with a heavier hand than you probably could get away with a color image. And it can also save an image if you have something that's very texture heavy, but a little too monochromatic with green, say. Turning it into black and white and teasing out the shadows apart from the highlights can make something a bit more compelling too.
I agree. And Tom agrees on the 17 as an amazing lens. I would agree.
Yeah, big fan of that one.
All right. Well, I'm going to pull our slides out. I do have a couple of questions from the chat. Do you want to hear some questions from the chat really
Oh,
quick?
yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, what backpack do you use in the woods to carry all your gear?
Oh, that is a great question. I love backpacks. I use
So
the
do I.
Shimoda X30 Action Pack with the medium mirrorless cube. And then I also have that in the X50 for when I need to really pack a bunch of stuff. That's my main adventure pack, and I love taking that out into the woods because honestly, it has great pockets right on the shoulder strap. So I can put my phone into one, so when I'm updating social media or stories, I can take the phone out and I can keep all my spare batteries and lens cloth and lens pin in the other. And then I like that it opens from the back and the compartmentalization is really handy. So I've been using that when I'm just about town or just doing a smaller 1 hour hike. I take the Peak Design everyday sling and usually take like 3 or 4 lenses and a camera body in there.
I like that you have a pouch for your social media. If you guys
Yes.
aren't following David on social media, you should be. He consistently updates stories of all of his hikes and will talk you through where he is. It's actually quite entertaining. David has his own show, honestly. It's a lot of fun to follow along with all of David's adventures. I can always get really excited when I see a whole lineup of stories. I'm like, oh, he's on a hike.
Thank you.
Let's see. Actually, I asked those two. This is one topic we didn't talk about tonight, but I don't know if you do use. Are you ever using the in-camera HDR modes, or do you use any bracketing and then edit later?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. For the longest time, I used exposure bracketing, and I have that actually programmed in as one of the custom functions on the dial on both cameras, and I do use that frequently when I'm more in an exposed location and I want to have a more balanced image in terms of exposure. But I think it's kind of an aesthetic preference. You know, it's kind of fun to stick to that for a while and then to stick to something where you tease out the contrast and let the highlights be more blown out. I do say that works really well if you have a windless day under the trees and you want to balance out the landscape a little bit better so that highlights and the shadows are more even to one another. The bracketing is super, super helpful. And I've used that with super fast shutter speeds up to 8,000th of a second on a really sunny day in full exposure. And I've also used it handheld with like 1/10 of a second or 1/2 a second bracketed to get those darker scenarios, which is really cool having that versatility. Other bracketing modes I use, I think that's probably about the most of what I use for bracketing is that one.
Nice. And my friend Richard would like to know what your pano technique is. So where are you editing your panoramas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I just stitch them together in Lightroom. I think Lightroom has a really good way of stitching the panoramas together, and you can expand them out to the full frame. And then when I'm shooting, I'll usually level myself in the center of the frame and then focus using the first frame, and then just pivot my waist. And I'll activate the levelers too in the camera to make sure that I'm staying level from side to side. And I'll just use also the frame guides in the camera and just kind of line myself up for 4 or 5 shots to get the photo I want.
Awesome. All right, David, I know you have plans tonight and we've run a little bit over time. And so I'm going to let you go. I really, really want to say thank you for joining us tonight. I haven't talked to you in a while, and it was really nice to catch up with you and introduce you to all of our friends in the chat.
Oh, thank you. This is such an honor. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing more of your fisheye work, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully next month in Seattle.
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. Have a great night, David.
You too. Bye.
Bye. All right, so we made it through the forest on hikes in the Pacific Northwest. Now we're going to go to the other side of the country. We're going to go all the way to, I think, New Hampshire, and we're going to talk with my really, really favorite friend, Emilie. Let's bring Emilie on. Emilie Talpin, OM System Ambassador. Emilie, you're muted, so you're going to have to unmute yourself because I can't do it.
I know. Thank you so much, Michelle. I am so excited. I was so excited during David's presentation that I just had to mute myself.
I like that we've coordinated with our scarves tonight. Good work.
I know. We changed.
Yes.
We don't have the same T-shirts, though.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
Yeah. I'll just stick with my EM1X. I'm a big fan. So you are also friends with David online, correct?
I am, yes. We connected maybe a year and a half ago, and we've been in touch. And I need to go and see him, and he needs to come and see me. I love following him on Instagram. He has, as you said, all those stories about hiking, and I feel like I already know his area pretty well. So I can't wait to go on a hike with him.
Yes, I think you guys do. I think you guys need to compare and contrast your forests and see who has the better one. It'll be a duel.
Yes, though it sounds like he wants to go hiking in the rain. I'm not sure I'm up for it. My camera is, I'm not.
You're like me. We will go hiking in the dry. It's fine.
Exactly.
All right, Emilie. So you're an OM System ambassador, and tell us how you got into OM System. What inspired you to pick up an Olympus OM System camera?
Yes, well, I was not happy with the camera I had because it was mostly staying on my shelf, and I thought I'm not progressing. And then I had a couple of friends from my camera club. I'm part of the Seacoast Camera Club in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and I've seen a couple of people who are out in the chat. So hi, Suzanne. And so someone in my camera club said, you need to go and try an Olympus camera. And when I picked the camera, I'm not kidding, I knew it was the right one. It just felt right. No, I'm no kidding. The ergonomic on those cameras is just amazing. It's just like fits so right in your hand. So that was the first step. It's so lightweight, and all the computational features are just out of this world. I mean, it's like having a little computer with you that are going to help you being more creative. And so I went to Tom and Lisa also in the chat, and Peter are in the chat. A lot of OM System ambassador, Chris and Tom as well from the UK team. And so I went to a conference organized by Lisa, and Peter was there also presenting, and they just, totally convinced me. I love their work, and I thought, I'm going to get more serious, and this is the camera that's going to help me out. And it really did. I've been having so much fun with this camera, trying different things from macro to wildlife, and I don't see myself ever changing. It's just the perfect camera for me, for my style of shooting. Oh, now you are the one muted.
This is a live show. This is a live show. Anything can go wrong. My light just died. We're having I'm very spooky now. It's very green. I'm going for the Halloween vibes. So, Emilie, you're in New Hampshire. Tell us, and I think I can guess a little bit on this. What do you like to photograph?
So I now have decided I'm going to call myself the bee photographer, because anything that starts with a bee, I like to photograph. So beavers, one of them. And I actually did a project for Olympus at the time, and following a family of beavers during the pandemic. And they really kind of saved me. It was so depressing. And I found this pond. I had just moved into the city, and I thought, I used to live in the White Mountains. I had bears and moose in my backyard all the time. And I thought, I'm done. I'm going to leave, this beautiful place and be in I call it a city. You guys would laugh because New Hampshire is 81% forest. So there is forest everywhere around. So I just get out of my apartment, I walk on the trail, and I have this family of beaver. And it's been really, really amazing to be able to follow them, photograph them, and kind of understand their dynamic. It's just been so much fun. So the photos you're seeing right now is from one of my favorite beaver. I call him Barry Tyson. Tyson because his little tail has been eaten. Like that. I don't know what happened to it. So he's the male, and you can't tell with beavers, the female and the male, you don't know which one it is. But I had it's 6:40, I think I can say it. I had a private show one time at the pond, so now I know which one is the male beaver. And a little too much information, but this beaver has been really friendly, and every time I'm staying at one place on the pond, he will come forward and eat next to me. The other beavers, I mean, they're wild animals, so you have to be careful. I'm stay still. You see those photos, they all taken with a long telephoto lens. I have actually the 150-400, which is really my favorite lens. If you can, it's truly an amazing lens. But I also, use the 100-400 if it's more in your budget. And two of those photos were taken with the 100-400, a great lens. I love to kind of capture their daily life and what they're doing. So they like to debark the tree. So their front legs are like our hands. So they like rotate them and they turn the little like branch. And their back leg you can see in the big picture. So they're like a duck, and they use them to swim. And they also have a hinge toe. So that's like a brush, and that's how they put oil. So they have castor oil, and they put it so they can be more waterproof when they swim. It's really fun. I've learned a lot about beavers.
I've been following this for so long, your beaver story on Instagram. But all the different, it's just been so interesting watching this throughout the year. And I really love that you have such a collection of beaver photography now. You're like the aficionado of beaver photography, really.
I think I am. But it's so fun, especially because you think, okay, well, how many beaver photos can you have? Well, you can have a lot of different beaver photos, and it also depends on, the season. You get them in the snow, they really can detach from the landscape, because you can see some of the photos, it's kind of brown on brown, which is not the best, but you get them in the water right now. I mean, the colors are popping. It's just beautiful. So I try to get them when they swim, and in the nice, beautiful color of the fall of New Hampshire. And then winter is coming, and they're going to be started to swim and try to break the ice, which if you haven't seen a beaver break the ice, you have to. It's just the sound. It's like a big submarine that's going up, breaking the ice, and then they're kind of clumsy. They try to walk on the ice. They are so much fun. And with the photos, you'll really be able to detach your subject as well. And then I also tried the 300 millimeter actually recently. I like the zoom lens because it gives me a distance. The 300 is a great lens, but I'm more of a zoom person. When I'm with the beaver, I usually don't move, so I can't back off. And so that beaver was like, he was very interesting in the 300 millimeter, and he came really close.
He's now also your friend, so congratulations. So you've shown kind of a lot of range here in these different images. So why don't we take a look in your bag? Why don't you tell us what you carry with you?
So right now, the OM1 is my go-to camera with the 150-400. And also sometimes when the beavers come closer, I do use the 400 and the 40 to 150 millimeter, another really stunning lens. When I started, that was one of the first lenses that I used. And I also do a lot of macro. So I have the 60 millimeter and the 30 millimeter macro, because I mean, those ones, they fit in my pocket. That's the 30 millimeter macro. And I also have a diffuser. I also have the wireless remote control. And I like also to capture the sound. I try to do some videos. And so I try to capture the sound of the beavers with the new LSP5, which I just got, and I love it. I had the LSP5, and it really adds to your video, to just grab a very clean sound and then add it to your video. And it also does very well as a shotgun mic. So when I do videos for YouTube, now this is what I'm going to be using. It's same, it fits in your pocket, it's so small. So a great addition to your camera bag, in my opinion. And then I had the flash. So that's basically when I'm out in the woods, that's kind of my kit right now. My kit kind of evolves, but right now that's kind of where I am. And then if I want to take videos of the beavers underwater, I like the tough TG6. If you're just starting, then that's the camera for you. It can do so much. It's a great little camera. I put it in the pond where I live, and it survived. So great camera.
It's perfect for investigating the beavers underwater. I like it. That's a great use for it. I don't think anyone's ever told me that's what they use their TG6 for, but now I've heard it and I'm really excited. Now we know it's also a Beaver certified underwater camera.
It is. It's approved. It's approved by the Beavers. You can definitely use it. They were not scared of it. They did a little dive under it and back. So I just need a little clearer water. But yeah, it was really fun to see the beaver. You see that, big beaver just going under the logs. And you're able to capture that by just putting your camera. I tied the camera to one of the log underwater. And I got the shot because I knew where the beaver was going in and out. So
nice. You've got them predicted now. All right, so let's take a look at some more of your photography because that's what we're here for. The gear is good. Oh, wait, no, we're not. We're going to look at more gear. She's got lots of gear, guys.
People are always asking me, what is your camera bag? And my camera bag is actually like David. He uses the sick little peak design. I love it. And I added the think tank belt just for support. It works very well. And then the peak design capture clip and the leash are great. And then if you are in the forest, I'm going to show you a couple of mushrooms. And it's kind of Halloween, right? So you can kind of have glowing mushrooms with a little light. And with I also have some gels that you can add in your light. So just some fun things to add to your camera bag.
Those are cool. What are the name of those lights? I've never seen those tiny lights.
So Lytra torch, but they are discontinued. You might still find a few, but Luma Cube also does the same type of light, and they go well with Platypod. Also has a whole setup for macro, and that's what they sell it with.
Awesome. Oh, all right. So now we're getting into the close-ups.
Yes, and I do a lot. Maybe that's because of macro. I like to do very tight right now. I like environmental portrait as well, but I feel like I'm really drawn to getting as much detail as I can and to fill the frame with my animal, which you shouldn't do all the time. But for those, I just, those are the animals that I will see around the pond all the time. So you have the little chipmunk, and you will hear them in the forest. I know when I walk, I know that there is a chipmunk right here, and it's going to start, screaming if I come too close. And you just start to really understanding your surrounding. And that's one thing. You might go to a local pond once and think, nothing happened. Keep on going, try different season, try different time, because you might be surprised. I always find new things, and I've been working at this, like walking around the pond every day for the past 2.5 years, and I still discover things. And in the fall, we also get the little red heft, and they are so cute, bright orange. You see them, they're extremely small. So I love to use my macro lens for this with a diffuser, and also with the frog. I know I should go and talk to Lisa because she has a great collection of frogs, but mine I have to find in the wild. So that's a green frog. And they're harder. You really have to be really, really slow and have a very slow approach to not, scare them. But I'm in the water right now with the frog and just really slowly getting closer and closer. And I mean, that's with the macro lens. Yeah, it's a fantastic lens. The 60 millimeter macro I use it a lot also for, amphibians and also portrait. It's a great portrait lens as well. But it's a f2.8, so you've got a lot of light, which is also good because the forest can be pretty dark. So the more light you get, the better.
So your lizard friend in the middle clearly is not super skittish because the 60 you got to get kind of close with that lens, and he looks like he's happy that you're there.
Oh no, you have to spend a lot of time with them.
Really,
And this
really.
I know, and it is exactly like this. It's just moving so slow until you get to that distance. And I shoot in manual mode, manual focus. And so yeah, I just I do the back and forth, and then oops, when I have it in focus, I just get the shot. But you really have to, yeah, you really have to be patient with your macro lens. That shot of the red eft and the frog, yeah, you have to wait a little bit and you have to approach slow.
I like that you have this calming energy and that animals like you, and I'm over here with like chaos energy. I would never get that photo.
You should.
I'm so impressed with you, and you're nice. I mean, even when you speak, it's so calm and nice, and I understand now why animals like you. You're like Snow White, and it's amazing. I just think it's phenomenal that you're able to get that up close and personal with animals and not have them feel scared or run away. It's awesome.
Yes, I don't know. I think they are very calming. Like I feel like life is so chaotic that when I'm in the woods with my camera, there is that moment and where it's easier. But you should see my living room. It's a total mess. So,
So the
you know,
chaos energy goes to your living room, and
yes,
your calm energy goes to the forest. Got it.
exactly.
Somebody is asking if you can give an approximate about how far away from the newt were you.
Oh, about that far. I can't remember what the focusing distance of. Yeah, it escaped me, but I'm at that like minimum focus distance with the 60 millimeter macro.
That's
Yeah,
crazy. I think
totally
it's
close.
seven
So
and a half inches off the
yes,
sensor to the subject. So yeah, that's close.
very, very close. And I had a diffuser. So, and that's why also with the diffuser, I have to approach like, very, very uh, patiently and slow.
I'm still impressed. I'm blown away. All right, so now we're further away. We're not up close to this guy, I can tell.
Yes, exactly. And once again, so that's this one was with the 100 400. So you want the distance with the animal. That barred owl, I've been wanting to see an owl for so long, and finally it happened. That's actually going to be the right time to start seeing more owls because all the leaves are going to start falling, and so you'll have a visual. When they fly, they're silent, so you won't hear them. They might be right on top of you and flying right at your back, and you will not hear them. So just keep an eye, and that's why in the forest, keep an eye up, keep an eye down, keep an eye everywhere. uh, but the owls are just fantastic, fantastic birds to photograph. I love their eyes, and they're also so calm. There's something so calming to observe an owl. So I'm hoping to get better shot with the 150 400. And I just love the bouquet that you get when you are in the forest. Those bouquet at the back. It's great, and we'll see that with the mushroom. I have a couple of mushroom shots that I added to the presentation.
Let's see. Well, not yet. Squirrels first.
Squirrel first. And this shot I included because a lot of people are always saying, yeah, you're a macro full third and you have to shoot at 200. And yes, most of my macro shot are at 200 because that's what's recommended for the camera. But look at this one. That's enormous, right? My ISO, it's so high. And you know what? It's fine. And I'm going to print it and it's going to be fine too. And nowadays you also have a lot of like denoise option that you can use. So don't be scared to use high ISO. And that's coming from my friend Lehigh, who actually did an excellent presentation on shooting with high ISO. I think it's on his YouTube channel. Go and check it out because it's worth your time. So don't be scared. If you want the photo, put your ISO high. Don't keep it at 200. You're not going to get the shot. This squirrel was a little bit cooperative.
I was going to say he looks very happy and well fed and enjoying his time.
Yes. And I love with the framing, with the, the fall colors. And one thing that I love in the forest is doing mushroom and glowing mushroom. And I show you, I have this little light, but you don't need the light. Just, with your phone, with the flash on your phone, just put it under the mushroom and then kind of move. Look at the different angle. That's one thing when you are in the forest. Go and look at your subject with a different eye. So move around your subject, and with the mushrooms, I like to do a low angle. And one thing with mushroom, because they grow in the forest, is very dirty. I always carry a little brush, so I clean them before I take a shot. Otherwise, they can be very dirty. And then you're going to spend a lot of time in post-processing. And you also want to find subjects that are isolated. That's usually what I prefer. This one, I was lucky. There were 3 of them. But I do a lot of like one single mushroom. And then I use focus stacking because here I have 8 frame. And it's f5.6, so it was enough. And I don't have like a magic formula for what I start usually with 8 frames with a 5 in different in focus differential, and then I'll go from there. I look at my image and I readjust. All your shots are going to be different depending on your subject and your distance to your subject.
Nice. Yes, that is the number one question we get asked about focus stacking is what is the secret formula? And I'm like, there isn't one. You need to experiment. I love these. Peter Baumgarten, who's in the chat, also just wrote an article on our Learn Center about glowing mushrooms. And it's so cool to see both of you guys are doing this light up magical little mushroom villages. I love it. Very fun.
Peter's mushrooms are amazing.
Yes, just don't touch the mushrooms if you don't know what they are. We learned that on last month's episode that was all on mushrooms, to be careful when you're out in the woods.
It's true.
These are fun.
And yeah, so those are other shots. As I said, I like to isolate one mushroom and then put myself lower, light it up from under, and then use the forest to get that really fun bouquet. And then on the one in the middle, you even have a little heart that kind of is in the middle. So that was a kind of fun surprise when I put it on my computer. But yes, it's really fun, and I can spend hours and hours in the forest. And that's why I also have like a flashlight with me, because sometimes I will come back and it's completely dark. You can get pretty absorbed when you're doing macro in the forest. But it's really fun, very calming. I highly recommend it. So if you go in the forest and you do mushroom photography, please tag me, because I want to see your shots.
Yes, you will see lots of awesome forest photography on Emilie's page as well. I just recently invested in a headlamp, and it was like the best forest hiking purchase for $5 I've ever made. It's amazing. Yeah, it's like when it's too late, you're hiking back and you're losing sunlight. You don't have to hold any. I love my headlamp. It's my new favorite.
And if you're doing some night photography as well, it's a great prop. So
yes. All right, what do we got? Oh, Live ND. This is popular.
It is very popular, and it's such a great feature on the camera. And you were talking about make sure that you set up one of your buttons on your camera. So all my buttons are customized like to an insane level, I would say, because I have like C1 that's for bird, I have C2 wildlife, I have C3 that's for macro, and C4 that's like a general setting for Milky Way. And then all my buttons are different. So this is live ND, but when I'm in macro, it's going to be another function. And then the little lever here, you can also use it, and that's like all autofocus, and that's one focus point. So you can also even customize when you put the level up and down. It's just fantastic. So at the press of the button, I can have up to live ND 64 on the OM1, which is, I mean, it's really amazing. And so when I'm out in the forest, we have a lot of river and streams. So it's just really, really fun to just freeze the water. I use mostly Live ND 32, but I've really been enjoying the upgrade to 64. It's really fantastic. We're very lucky. So thank you, OM System, for doing this for us.
Yeah, the update on the Live ND was awesome. It's really great too for like really, really bright sunny days now to have that extra
Oh, yes.
stop. So helpful.
It makes such a big difference. And I mean, you can tell that's without, on the left, without Live ND, and then with Live ND. I personally prefer the Live ND, and every time now I shoot water, I really like that option. And I don't have to carry any filters with me. And if I find something in the forest, I don't have to think, oh, if only, well, no, my camera is here to save the day. So it's really nice. And I think the second image is...
Oops, I went too fast. I'm getting...
It's the water. It took away the whole presentation. Yes.
I love this perspective that you got here. This is great.
Yes, it was a waterfall up in the White Mountain. It was actually last year. And yes, it was actually with the Mark III. So that was probably Live ND, probably 32. And handheld. And that's another thing. I don't carry a tripod. I'm not a fan of tripod. I'm very clumsy, and I feel like they make my shots very static, and they stop me from looking at different angles. So that's why I don't use tripods, except if I really, really have to, which doesn't happen very often. But when I'm out in the woods, I don't have a tripod. I just, I can handheld the shots and get such sharp results with just handhelding the camera. So yeah, try it. If you haven't tried Live ND, just do that. Tomorrow, go out and try it. And you can do different things with Live ND. So that's with the water. But there is, if you go to the other one, that's also with Live ND. So it's ICM, so intentional camera movement. And sometimes I'm in the wood and somehow there is nothing that really inspires me. So I like to just put Live ND and then just do some ICM because you've got those trees, you've got all the colors of the leaves right now. So it's very abstract and you're never going to get the same shot, whatever you do. So try different ND, try different setting and see what you're going to get. And on the next one, I actually have a couple of tips and a different shots. So once again, use a custom button so you get to your Live ND straight away. And what I do is I like to start moving before I press the shutter. So if you don't do that, you'll see the first image. You have the leaves that are already imprinted, and then I moved. So then I get those stripes. But the second shot on the right, I started moving before I pressed the shutter, and then you have those clean lines. And then play with different type of motion. This is the motion that I've done in all the shots I showed you, but you can also do a zoom motion, or you can move your camera like this or like this and see what you get. It is really, really fun. So if you feel like I'm not inspired, I don't know what I want to capture, try Live ND. You don't need water. Just pick what's in front of you, move your camera, pan it up and down, horizontal, vertical, and see what you're getting. It's really, really fun and addictive. I know it's a controversial subject. A lot of people are like, I do not like ICM. And some people are like, I live for ICM.
But I think that's creative and it's unique and it's up to the person, right? Art is subjective. So
exactly.
If it brings you joy, you should definitely do it and not listen to anyone who says they don't like it because they don't have to.
Exactly. I totally agree. And I think that was my last photo for you tonight.
Oh, it was. So I do have a couple questions for you in the chat. Well, sort of. We kind of actually hit most of them. But Robin wanted to know if there is...
Hey,
wait,
Robin.
where'd she go? Where'd you go? Come back, Robin. There she is.
Robin
she
is
wanted to...
I do movement without even meaning to. Me too. That's why I have this camera, because the stabilization is amazing.
Right. So Robin is wondering if there's anything you do and maybe anything you pack to keep yourself safe when you're alone in the woods, because that's very true. You got to be
Yes.
cautious.
For sure. Actually, I have a terrible story that happened on my trail, and I just started going back on the trail because they arrested the person. But it's been in my head a lot, and I used to be. I used to always pay attention to my surrounding and always have an escape route. And yes, I crossed paths with someone that could have been, very dangerous. I'm very happy I'm still here, but that's not the case for everybody. And so we don't think about safety, and we say woman, but you don't have to be a woman to find the wrong person. And a lot of people are like, oh, you need to carry something because coyotes. I'm like, I am fine with coyotes and bears. Human beings, no, it's a different story. So I do carry mace. I have actually a grizzly spray that I carry with me because I have that when I went to Montana. And then I also let my family know where I am. They know usually how long I'm going. If I'm going to be late, I'm going to text that person. They have my cell phone and they can locate me. And then if you can, go and shoot with other people. That's what I do now. If I go and do night photography, for example, I'm not going to go alone. I'm actually going to contact my camera club friend and ask them if they want to come with me. But yes, be mindful because unfortunately you never know. Even if it's a trail that you know very well, it can happen. So you need to have a B plan. I'm a B photographer. I have a B plan if something happens.
That's right. And it's a good excuse for all of everyone in the chat to, always when you're here, share where you are and hopefully make a new friend in the chat who's also near you and go out and make more photography friends. We were out in the Tetons doing star photos a couple weeks ago, and it was so much more fun freezing my buns off with all my friends and not by myself. And it makes you stay motivated to try new things. So yeah, get together with some photography friends, make a photo journey. And if you have friends, even if they don't shoot Olympus or OM System, you can bring them over later, but go do some photos with them.
Yes. And that's the thing. I've met so many OM system user on the trail, and having a camera is like having a dog. People will stop and ask you a question. I don't have a dog, I want one, but at least I have a camera. And so I've met a lot of OM system users, and now we text each other. Hey, there is this on the other side of the pond. Have you seen it? And there is this mute swan that's rare in this area where I am. So it's been great. I really, really enjoy meeting all the OM system user in my area, and they've been great help, and it's been really, it's a great community. So reach out. Don't hesitate to reach to any of the ambassadors as well. We're here to help you out. I know when I started, I reached out to a lot of OM system ambassadors, and they've been so helpful. So just, don't hesitate to do that as well.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them in the chat tonight. You guys can all shout out if you're an OM system ambassador so we know who to contact, right?
Yes, exactly.
There's a whole bunch of them tonight. And Emilie, if you guys enjoyed hanging out with Emilie tonight, which of course we did because we love Emilie, you have a YouTube channel now, right? What's your YouTube channel name?
Yes, so it's Emilie Talpin. Emilie, why do I say my name strangely like in English? I'm actually from France, so I anglicize my name. Emilie Talpin Photography. And I do I post videos every Sunday. My last videos was about ICM actually and Live ND. So go and check it out. It's a great community. People give a lot of tips and help each other. And that's the goal of the channel. And I know Rob also, he has a great channel where he talks, he has a lot of talk about OM system and Olympus camera. So great resources.
I saw Rob pop in. Hi, Rob. He came in late, so he didn't get a shout out earlier. Well, Emilie, I'm going to let you also have your night back because I know it's later on the East Coast than it is for us. And I just want to say thank you again for sharing not only your images, but of course your expertise and your awesome calming energy. I really appreciate you having you on the show. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you, everybody. And don't hesitate to reach out. And Scott, I know you're 50 miles away. We do a lot of things online. Reach out and I'll help you out. No problem at all. Thank you, everybody.
Emilie's great. Thank you, Emilie. All right, that brings us to the end of this month's episode. I will be back in a week, though, because in a week it's OM System Day, and you can come hang out with us. We are going to be talking with different tech reps. We'll have it in multiple languages. It's going to be an all-around fun day celebrating OM System as a brand. So we do look forward to seeing you and hope you can make it next week. November, we are going to take a little break because, as you guys know, I tend to fall on the end of the month, the last Thursdays of the month. And you know what? In America, it's Thanksgiving, so we are going to take a little break on Thanksgiving, and I will probably see you guys again sometime in December. So I'll give you guys a break. You guys can do a lot of photos. You can tag us on Instagram, reach out to us on Instagram or Facebook. Let us know if you're ever wanting to share your photos. We love to share out on Friday favorites. So make sure you're tagging us. Tag Emilie so she can see all your mushroom photos. And just thank you again for being such awesome people in the chat and celebrating with everyone. And reach out to another OM System ambassador and help build the community. Go photograph with them. And just thank you for joining us.